To those of you who thought I'd forgotten about or ignored Growing Strange, I hope this comes as a pleasant surprise to you. This video behemoth will set before you the journey that I have gone on from the very start and introduction of Growing Strange to the nowadays and everything in between. And so here, for your viewing pleasure, is Growing Stranger. The time before Growing Strange was a peaceful time, a time where cat fruit was a wonderful venture, a nice, exciting but calm and mellow journey into achieving true forms for units that you could work to achieve through different daily stages and sometimes even a buffet. Things were fantastic, and in proportion you could get your units, get the cat fruit for your units, evolve them, and then perhaps motion over to something different and have some great fun battling at the stories of legend.
Can't I, Cat? Stop it. No, can't even do it when they're right on the base, you hopeless apple.
Unfortunately, there was a storm coming. A dark, dingy, scary and ominous storm that would prove to change the cat fruit world forever. From a nice, calm adventure to an insurmountable quest to cause almost infinite trouble. This was the introduction of Growing Strange. Back in the days of the deep past, it was 2018, and upon us had befalled an update of another new integer, update 7.0.
Here it is, the version 7.0 update.
Massive update! Styling itself in so many synonyms of big and gargantuan might have been a little bit overzealous, but there were a lot of things to be seen in that update, and indeed, a lot of things did change. Some perhaps for the more interesting, for example, the introduction of Uncanny Legends. Some for good and for bad, the reduction of every play, the rather faulty replay sharing feature from the game. But then there was the introduction of something that I would personally argue is an unquestionably bad addition in its current form.
A new cat fruit is growing. Could this be the key to unlocking a new breed of cat soldier? I guess you posted to sort of give it away a little bit.
Artistically though, it was quite nice.
And that cat fruit design is lovely. Really sort of interesting crop circle markings on the cat fruit. I like the kind of discoloration of the leaves as well. Something is afoot.
But something most certainly was afoot. And perhaps I should have been a little more terrified by the rather foreboding message.
The cat empire is about to be shaken to its core.
And with this foreboding new type of cat fruit, of course, came a new growing stage. But for what was quite a while, I left Growing Strange alone. And during that time, all I found was increasingly worrying statements about how awful I'd find the stage. And so I left it there. I personally am a believer in the idea that if you're contented with how you are, that's fine. If there's something new, you don't necessarily need to engage with it and welcome it into your life. For example, keyless technology for cars. A dreadful idea. But every cloud has a silver lining, I guess. For car burglars. But I digress. Growing Strange was something that I had no interest in engaging with particularly quickly. The time, of course, would come, as you well know, but for that point it was entirely within the domain of opinion from other people. People who had been brave enough or bored enough with having finished the game to give it a go. So let's return to May 2018 to a rather quick on the ball Lucas IV, who, I think you can agree, out of most players, is the least likely of them to over-egg the difficulty of a Battle Cat stage.
The update is great. It's amazing. I would even say it's perfect. What the hell is this? Why? Oh my god. Growing Strange has got to be one of the most frustrating additions to Battle Cats. Having a hard challenge in endgame, I can understand. But a hard challenge is far from a decent description for Growing Strange. It's frustrating. What stage you get is at the mercy of the game, so if you get the metal and zombie stage 10 times in a row despite making a lineup that doesn't fit those stages, it's not your fault. It's completely the game's fault, and just by getting the wrong stage, you'd already wasted 300 energy, and probably a lot of time in killing this one Berserker because it actually has Calamari at the backline in the first stage. This isn't a challenge, it's just pure BS. It's not fun, it's not enjoyable, and it takes a hella long time to complete, and I know I'm not alone in this. I actually haven't heard of a single soul that actually genuinely enjoys Growing Strange.
And a note from a now finished media student, a lot of meaning in things is not particularly ethically created by leaving parts of what people say out in order to strengthen a point, or even just create an entirely different point to what the creator of what we call the media text intended originally.
Growing Strange is great. It's amazing.
To oversimplify, this is what journalists do. They attempt to drag audiences into a story by creating, quite often with certain newspapers, what's known as a moral panic. To cause people to go, oh god, that's terrible, when something's been taken out of context to make people feel that way through blatant misrepresentation. In the interests of balance, though, I should point out that not all journalists do this. Some of them, thankfully, just report actual facts without any form of slant on it, and I think that's what journalism ought to be. It's just what it often isn't. I point this out in this strange divergence because as the editor of this, I could have cut Lucas's video to present a message wholly validating, with considerable gusto, my belief that Growing Strange's makeup and mechanics are just an abject mistake. And it would probably be misrepresentative to think that Lucas thinks Growing Strange is an entire mistake. So what I've hopefully done is give a genuine representation of a general overview of what the people thought of Growing Strange at that point. And if that is a fair representation of that video, those views are quite strongly against Growing Strange. And that's probably why viewers at the time weren't particularly upset that I hadn't tried the stage yet. That prudent advice to stay away, though, eventually gave way to demand, and as I am an entertainer, it soon came time that I had ought to produce that particular piece of entertainment to satisfy that demand. But that wasn't until July, because as you know, I do like to take my time. But when July came and it was the present, there was no time like the present, and at that present time, the time of present was the time for Growing Strange. So here it was, July, and the time to attempt Growing Strange for the very first time, and I was all too aware of how difficult it was likely to be. I'd been told about that plenty by a lot of people. Nothing rivaling the amount of people who would later tell me that it would be nerfed, but that's a different story. At that point, I realised that even if I looked up videos on how to do it, the likelihood would be that I would really struggle with it because of how difficult people were saying it would be, and given I struggle with stages that people said shouldn't be difficult at all. So I reasoned that probably the best thing to do would be to not watch any guides at all and have a go at it all by myself. That's more likely to win sympathy if I can't do it, which seemed to be the overwhelming likelihood. And so I ventured into Growing Strange without even a sketch of a shadow of any knowledge about how the level worked, as you'll be able to see as we take a trip back to over a year ago. What might possibly be the most ridiculously long-winded all by myself I have ever
undertaken, but the people asked for it, and the people will get it. Luckily, Growing Strange is one thing I've managed to avoid spoilers on, at least as far as what's in the level is concerned. So this will be new to me, and I hope it's going to be exciting. Ginger Snatches, what have I got best for them? Probably Manic Macho Legs, little bit of meat shielding, and then maybe another Gizo. And what is gonna, oh wow, okay, yep, okay, that's an interesting start. So we got Le Pigeon de Sable, more Mr. Angels, which can be dealt with by Cameraman there against the floating, and also Gizo against the Angels. Now Pigeon de Sables might cause a little bit of trouble just because I don't have anything like Octopus here, no wave resistance in this slot, but I do have Paladin, which I can use against the Metal One Horn there, so no need to panic on that front. Oh, it has suddenly turned into the Great Cat Tournament, but sort of the other way around. That's nasty. It's Zoris and Shadow Boxer K. I hate zombie enemies, and behind is a strange ghostly squid and a Berserkori. So one thing we're definitely going to need is wave resistance. I get that, but wow. I'm beginning to see why people complain about this just a tiny bit. A lot of stuff right there, I tell you. Strange ghostly squid causing trouble. Berserkori causing double trouble. Zombies causing infinite trouble. Anti-waves. Anti-wave-wise, I'm thinking maybe something which facilitates the rest of the meat shields for the way that my units works. Maybe instead of Cat Machine, maybe something like Eva 00. Oh, and of course, Berserkori with level 11 waves causing trouble as per usual, decimating everything, even in my sort of other battle. Now, for all I know, this could be like a third of the way through the battle, even less than that. I've heard that it's difficult, and if I can get this far in a general slot, I can be fairly sure that there's much worse to come. So, what I think I'm gonna do is make as small an edit to this strategy as I can to facilitate against the Berserkori, but allow for whatever comes along after it. Gizo can take care of stuff probably better than Cameraman can. We've got to try and use every little slot in the 10-part slot as most efficiently we can. Or Paladin could die. I mean, that could happen as well. Now imagine this is one of those stupid no continue stages. That would have been it. 300 energy down the drain. But this is actually a sensible, actual stage, and despite what any of you might say about how difficult it will be, and I'm sure I'll find out in due course, you cannot say that it's fleecing you out of energy quite as much as a no continue stage would.
Hey Reggie, you don't even know the half of it.
And now that we've got Eva 00 protecting nicely against the waves, it looks like we're going to start to be able to make a nice affront to this Berserkori with some Gizo power and Elder Secret Merciless. It looks to me very much like a sort of on steroids version of the Catfruit Jubilee. That had all sorts of different types of enemies, including metal, which you don't see in the other Catfruit stages. And this is just that with far more difficult enemies, I reckon. And I don't think the ordeal is quite over yet. People wouldn't be complaining so profusely about how difficult the stage was if that was just it. It would probably just be me. So, what is next to come out o' the base? What's it going to be? What exciting thing is it going to be? The base has given us plenty of time to wait in anticipation for what on earth it's going to be. You're going to... No way, is that it? No, it's teasing me. It's definitely teasing me. No? Not when it's 100,000 health? What? I've just done it! What's that all about? What on earth is that all about? Has this been an elaborate joke?
Hey Reggie, you don't even know the half.
No, that's... no, I get it. That's what it is. No way could have that been what people were talking about. Oh, dear me. So I'm glad I kept things general. There's a whole other stage to it, which fills me with joy. I've noted that I haven't got any of that special cat fruit. Oh, Zamel! And I thought things were alright. Always there, causing you trouble in some sort of perpetual struggle that you can't possibly expect to win. And there is the bane of the Great Cat Tournament itself, the Zangru, burrowing away to who knows where. It's probably just going to appear at my base. Oh! I said that as a joke, Zangru. Resolutely a joke. Not an invitation. There's no point even pausing it, because once you use a continue that the game offers you to go on to another stage is worthless. You know, I take back everything I said, because you've still facilitated it into a no continue stage. For that pesky Zangru that almost immediately ruined any chance I had of getting through the second stage, I need to be able to knock it back immediately. Good. Paladin's out, so that's the most that we can do, but you know, to prevent risk of getting killed here and now, I'm going to start again. Because there's nothing I love more than doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Because as much as you might suggest that you shouldn't do that, that's exactly what you have to do. So you need to get this done fairly quickly. And if things stay like this, yeah, we're gonna be alright. That is just revolting, honestly. When you have waves of Zangroos like that, and your mighty Bombur dies, there's not really much you can do about it. I mean, we got insanely lucky there, but it's only burrowed corpse formed. It's gonna come back, and we're gonna have nothing for it. There is no physical way out of that. That is insane.
Oh, how deceiving can a word be?
Cleared Growing Strange, have I? Cleared it? I don't think I've cleared it somehow. Of course, like those stages back in the day, like bad to worse, this is worse to even worse. You complete it, you're like, oh, that's pretty good. I've completed it. But then what you want, you don't actually get. I guess the difference of bad to worse was, all you sort of wanted was to complete it. All you did get from doing the worst, I think, was an epic cat fruit, which can be got from RNG in the other cat fruit stages. I don't really want to make it so I can only get it done once in a blue moon. I need to get through this level every time I want to try the other level. And I mean, that's pretty horrendous. I don't like that at all. It's nasty, and it doesn't make for a very nice experience. Oh, okay, well, yeah, no, that's fine. I'll just start the level again. I've got all the time in the world. You know, I am losing the will already, and this is the first attempt of today. If all this chaos wasn't being caused, and my base wasn't getting destroyed for another time in a row, for goodness sake. I already hate this, and we haven't got on to the bit that I hate yet. I've actually changed the strat to try and suit the other levels so much that I've forgotten there was a bit that I was stuck on before anyway. This is actually awful. Wait, hang on a minute. Wait, hang on a minute. This isn't the zombie level, right? This is something entirely different. What on earth is going on here? Is this some kind of like branched evolution of a stage? Is it random? What chance it gives me at what level? I mean, I'm glad this isn't the zombie one, but still, I've made my strat for the zombie one. Am I gonna have to de-specificize it again? Because you've now thrown in another curveball at me. What am I going to find here? What have I got for a Scissoroo? Nothing. I mean, I much prefer to see aliens, but equally, right? I've got anti-zombie stuff. Nothing like Catman. Nothing like Volley. Nothing like that. We just got some fairly standard stuff that we actually brought for a zombie level that's now, quite interestingly, not here. What I reckon about Growing Strange now is that it's going to be like that thing in Wii Party, where you progress through a different path, doing different mini-games to ultimately get to the end goal. If it was just 2 stages, I would have done it right now, but I don't trust that that's it at all. And if I get the zombie one again, I mean, what's that saying? Oh, alright then. Wait, Seed, you little... I need to get this same luck with getting that galactic what's-it 4 more times to get the one strange ancient cat fruit that I need to get this true form. And then there's the legend true forms as well. That is not on. As had been proposed, Growing Strange was indeed incredibly difficult, and I probably found it nearly as difficult as people expected me to. Though I guess not as fully difficult as people might have expected, by virtue of the fact that I actually managed to do it. But to be fair, the reason that I managed to actually beat it was completely down to chance. The way that the second part stages fell into place for me gave me the wrong idea about the stage, but through that I had a more optimistic view of the stage than I currently do, and so that allowed me to make more progress through it than I otherwise would have. What is the reason for that? Well, by the looks of it, it was guaranteed that there would be a zombie stage after this first initial stage, and so I thought, okay, fair enough, I'll try and make sure I can just about do an Elder Secret and then personalise the strat for the zombie stage. The Berserk already dies right there, and I will join you in the hellish graveyard. Upgrade my worker cat at the start? I mean, maybe that's fair enough, not too overzealously. I might stop it there because we need to make sure we have enough monies for Mighty Bomber. That allowed me to be a lot more specific and bring units that ultimately won it for me, like Meg Aphrodite, though it was for Zamel that won it for me when it came to the alien level. And so if the stages had differed right from the start, and I'd been shown the fact that actually these things are completely random out of like 7 stages, I would have got absolutely nowhere. I would have lost after probably an hour of all by myselfing. I would have just given up. So the fact that I got through it is pretty fortuitous, not something that's particularly repeatable by any stretch of the imagination. And that within itself wasn't exactly great. It was just about doable. Nothing like as easy as you'd think an easier version of a stage would make a stage. No, just about doable from what was impossible. Doing that video also allowed me to begin to realise how kind of unnecessarily difficult the first stage actually was. Difficulty that at that point I found perfectly understandable for a stage I thought would be it, but it was not. Fair enough for a stage that would give a reward, but it wasn't a stage that would give a reward. So what you had was a really quite difficult stage that was gratuitously difficult. Difficult for no reason other than to go, ha 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 ha, I'm a difficult stage and oh look, it only gets worse from here. Indeed, even the very first part of that first stage caused me a lot of bother. Very, very difficult in that context to get your worker cat up to max level, as could be seen throughout that escapade. And the way that it always goes is that I either kill them too quickly or they kill me too quickly. The last time when it was with the ginger snatchers and that, what it did was actually just sort of fish them out of the sky and kill them. And I mean, it's actually still doing that. I'm gonna perpetually be starting this battle too early. This is starting to get a little bit annoying. Normally, I'd be very happy with this, killing the snatchers very easily. But when you want things to last longer and you to be stalling longer to get more cash, Jizo has to mess it up, doesn't he? Every time. Level 5 worker cat, it's not enough. And it's not even as if the first level's very easy. Often you have to start that one again just to get things in the right order that you need to be able to deal with that berserkery that has far too much health. Given that, as expected, I had not enjoyed Growing Strange and a lot of other people didn't like Growing Strange either, when I did actually get round to watching Lucas's video on Growing Strange, I saw an opportunity to seize on something very rare, a negative sentiment against a game's difficulty that people actually shared with me. This was going to surely be one of the few opportunities to make a change. So given that Lucas had decided against sending his video to Ponos after thinking about it, I set about making one of my own for them. This wasn't an opportunity to be passed up.
I want to see the community give feedback to Ponos. I want them to be like, hey, do this idea in the gameplay. Hey, here's my idea of making the Elder Cat Fruit easier to get. Regit.
I didn't intend the video to be a one-sided thing either. For what it's worth, for Ponos to have a reason to change it, there's got to be a wealth of opinion. So to capture the wide dislike of the stage, I did a couple of streams on it, asking people what they thought. And indeed, their distaste towards the level often even matched mine. I then looked back at Lucas's video and looked at the changes he had proposed to Growing Strange, looked at the ones that I'd thought of, and then morphed them together into some super changes to create as many simple ways as possible for Ponos to make the stage easier, or at least more reasonable. Dear Ponos, the first and probably most obvious thing to do is to change the drop rate of the Elder Cat Fruit. There seems to be no logical reason why it should drop a seed upon completing Growing Strange, given that on average it's taken about 4 attempts of the level, 1,200 energy and an average of about 15 cat food to get through one attempt to get one seed, 1/5 of one evolution. Reducing the energy cost.
Lower the energy cost. 300 is just ridiculous for this design. 200 is fine, I guess.
Splitting up the selection of stages that you get from the first one in a cycle.
Like Monday's Growing Strange only leads you to Alien, Metal, and Zombie, while Tuesday leads you to Floating, Rat, Black, and Angel.
And yeah,
removing the metal stage.
Remove the metal stage completely, and the one horn at the first stage. Without Kaguya, Paladin, or Hayabusa, this stage is basically a skip for everyone and it's a waste of time.
Please, I ask you to take heed of these simple fixes and put them into action so that this game can once again become a reasonable playing experience. Thank you. Looking back at it now, the simplest change would have possibly been the best. Except that Growing Strange was meant to be incredibly difficult and somewhat unreasonable as a stage within itself, but counter that by making the drop rates a lot more favourable. One cat fruit guaranteed for getting through the whole thing, and a high chance for one seed after completing an Elder Secret. That way, it would still take, at the very least, 1500 energy, so well over 2000 in reality, to get one Elder Cat Fruit from the first stage only. That wouldn't be easy. It's still a difficult stage, and it would take a heck of a long time, but it would present an angle on Growing Strange that would allow it to be farmed in a proper sense, which it should be able to be, surely, given it's a cat fruit stage. You'd spend about a week farming the stage that is definitely possible, especially given you wouldn't be catering your slot to the second part stages, and you'd be rewarded for farming this more reasonable stage with something either granting you or taking you towards evolving a unit of your choice. This would take an understandably long time, and you'd need that obviously for balance. And so that means that for those able to do all of Growing Strange, their skill and determination would be rewarded with a much quicker route to the cat fruit and the evolutions, possibly getting everything you need within one playing session. Thus, through that, Growing Strange would become an actual proper cat fruit farming stage, but retaining its unique level of difficulty and rewarding people who are better at it, whilst not alienating or wasting the time of those who are lower skilled. The difficulty of it then ceases to be frustrating. Growing Strange becomes largely fair, and Ponos wouldn't have to introduce anything new. All they'd have to do is alter the wording of probably a couple of lines of code, and that would be it. Done. Simple, effective, and remaining true to the idea of Growing Strange that I guess they must have spent at least a little while developing. The time came after that for an update in which Ponos made a change to Growing Strange. Now, I'm certainly glad that they listened to at least someone, be it me or not, and changed it. But was this the simple change to the drop rate? A really easy thing they could have done? No, not on your Nelly. That's not what Ponos did. Not even close. What Ponos did do, I'm not sure anyone saw that coming.
You can't say I wasn't glad Ponos had changed Growing Strange. In an objective sense, anyway, I was pleasantly surprised something had actually been done. By this point, there have been several updates worth of principled defiance and boycotting at the stage on my part. 7.3, bug fixes. I don't know what they're going to fix. Maybe Growing Strange? So I decided to boycott it, and in update 7.3, it hasn't been changed. Other levels have been, other levels that I've managed to do and were reasonably fine, they've been changed, but Growing Strange has not. So there you go. My standards will be upheld and we will not be true forming Catman. Version 7.4.0. Something I mentioned about zombies previously, actually. Ponos stealing my ideas. I rather wish they'd steal my ideas when it came to Growing Strange. But despite my bitterness, I was beginning to resign myself to a future free of Growing Strange. Not true forming of Catman. However difficult that was making certain parts of the game. Cyberpunk, which is not gonna be good enough in one of them, and I will need some of my very limited repertoire of my anti-relic cats whenever we come round to trying this again. It was not, in fact, beyond the realms of rational thought to assume that Ponos was tired of the negative feedback about the stage and had just ignored everyone, especially on account of what one alleged talker to Ponos told me. More on that in a bit. And to be honest, I didn't mind much. There was plenty else to do. Growing Strange certainly wasn't top of my list of things to try over and over again, be it reformed or not. This video is a video I've been looking forward to and thinking about for quite a long time, because this video is a video of stuff to go back to, stuff that hasn't been talked about for a very long time. Also, I find that often when I've reasoned my 2 cents articulately, it doesn't matter to me nearly as much anymore if nothing is actually done about the issue. That's probably for the best, because I doubt my observations on the brazen uselessness of football's offside rule will lead to it being removed, or that the FIA will take heed of my simple solution to make DRS genuinely useful for close F1 racing. But at least I've put my thoughts out there. Here though, in the Battle Cats community, I'm lucky to have a far higher soapbox than I would anywhere else. What I say does actually have a chance of eventually holding some weight. With that comes responsibility to fairly represent the majority views of others, something I've been pretty terrible at in the past, but I like to think I'm getting better at. That's why, of recent, I haven't done a Dear Ponos on removing legend rares or no continue stages, because I know there's a player appetite for those, and as much as I don't like them, if a feature makes a large number of people happy, it's worth keeping. In the end, if I've gauged people's thoughts right, I've arguably become an effective bearer of the Vox Populi, someone with responsibility to say something both meaningful and agreeable, because I might actually be someone with a reasonable chance of being listened to. And, as discussed, at least someone was listened to on Growing Strange, with a bit of creative license. I say this because when update 7.5 rolled around, the fanfare and excitement around the fact that Ponos had finally made a change to Growing Strange gave way to the reality of that change. Ponos had, drumroll please, in total, swapped one enemy in the first stage. But not just an enemy. They swapped an enemy that I don't remember anyone complaining about, in fact. You heard it right. After relative tirades of oppositional readings to the stage, Ponos had seen fit to rectify the situation by replacing a calamari with a morph. And as a result, with sarcastic tone in hand, I embarked on a return to this reformed Growing Strange. Update 7.5 then. Let's see what's changed. Oh, heck yeah. I have a good feeling about this. Gotta take things a little bit differently, not having the Jizo, but instead in the moving castle form for if we get the angel level, which should, of course, be easier. Oh, look, seems to be the same so far. I mean, this bit in particular wasn't so bad, so I guess we can let that go. It's going to be a zombie. That's still there. What's that look? Was that a morph? Have they got rid of the berserkery? They must have. How nice of them. Colour of blood. Well, that's a classic. Let's see how much easier they've made this stage. Look, they've only got one shy boy now. Oh, that was how it was anyway. Silly me. Well, of course, a shy boy is an immovable object, so there you go. It's alright though. I've got more energy than sense. Let's try Growing Strange again. Max Worker Cat. It's a good sign. It's a good sign, I tell you. Growing Strange has changed. I just know it. Oh, look, there's that morph. The brilliant change that they've made. Gosh, it's really making this first stage so much easier. You know, that calamari, everybody that I knew was saying, that's an insanely difficult calamari to deal with. That is what needs changing. Not the berserkery, that's easy. And because I'm having so much fun, I'm going to do it again, clearing Growing Strange for the 30th time. Let's celebrate this milestone with some changes. Oh, my paladin's dead. Gutting. Not going to clear it for a 30th time, but you know what? Just seeing that morph change warmed my heart to think that Ponos have listened, heard our requests, and they have made such an important and brilliant change that everybody can relate to and appreciate, getting rid of that impossible calamari and replacing it with a morph. This has revolutionised this level for me. I then tried Growing Strange again. This time perhaps in a more normal commentary way, but that also soon descended into blatant cynicism. There was simply nothing there to be jubilant about. What had been changed was arguably unnoticeable before anyway. Ironically, the calamari variant in Holy Wrath, one of the second part stages, which remained absolutely in place, would have been a noticeable and advantageous strange ghostly squid removal.
Right, another round of growing strange, just for funsies. Let's get it started. Erasers and a ramen is usually the way to go about it. Start with 2, because we've got the Mr. Angels both still there. Perhaps a pizza cat, that's got a nice wide area of effect. Let's skablam that. And they're up and away. Nice and slow unit, so we should get plenty of time to get ourselves some monies for the exciting stuff that's coming up. Now time for Mega Aphrodite, a bit of meat shielding, and then Jizo's Mega Castle for its nice multi-hit. There's a zombie somewhere inside everything, there we go. Got him quite nicely, otherwise he could have just jeopardised everything in its complete entirety. And now we're going to be safe because of that morph. That morph, that's what's made it easier. That morph. And that'll do. What are we going to be facing now? Hearts of Darkness. This should be extremely fun without a Bomber Cat. Why haven't I got a Bomber Cat? Well, even with Bomber Cat, things can go haywire very, very easily. Things like, you know, your huge bomber stack being entirely destroyed by one lapse in the freezing of Razorback. And then that's it. Your whole level scuppered. So the best I'm hoping for here is... well, I'm not really hoping for anything. One might perhaps expect that because this slot is therefore not geared towards this level in any particular way, it makes the other second part stages easier. I mean, that would be nice, wouldn't it? That would be a nice sort of cozy, it works kind of thing, where things make sense and they follow laws of order, but... no. Get a nice sort of shield in the form of Eva 00, slow all of them, and then Pizza Cat will be able to show its worth with its huge area of effect on all of these enemies. Skablam, huge old pizza, no trouble whatsoever. And here now is the Razorback with its extreme turn of speed, and well, I'm not hoping for anything because I have no Bomber Cat, but even when you do have Bomber Cat, there's really nothing to hope for because it can very easily all go wrong. Probably have a very little chance of it actually all going right. Thank goodness, really, that I'd qualified my boycott with a demand for an impactful and useful change, not the absolute minimum required to constitute a change. I couldn't quite fathom why Ponos had made such an insignificant alteration. A change even smaller in terms of workload, changing drop rates, could have fixed many issues with the stage in one fell swoop. I have no proof to suggest that the following is the case, but part of me wonders whether the only reasonable explanation for the growing strange changes of Update 7.5 is one of spite. The statement of the aforementioned alleged talker to Ponos supports this view. I stress that I can't be sure if any of what is said here is true, but if it is, it's an interesting thing to read and think about. This was sent to me before 7.5, after I had made the Dear Ponos video. Hi Regit, I offered to show Ponos the Growing Strange video on Twitter at the convention in Singapore. I showed the video to one of the developers there, and he sort of looked at the thumbnail, then at me with a dead face and went, "It's growing strange, isn't it?" Nevertheless, he watched the whole video, thought for a while, and said that they were going to make change in an Elder Secret, and might, or might not, make changes to the branched out stages. However, he said that Ponos would no longer read or reply to any messages about Growing Strange specifically from now on. That being, even before 7.5. Certainly, the speak of "with a dead face" and with a vow to no longer look at any specific messages about the stage suggests that, if true, Ponos really must have been riled by the amount of criticism they received for Growing Strange. Maybe that's why there would be, literally, a change. Perhaps Ponos has spent so long producing the stage that its flaws being pointed out upset them, and so they made a reactionary update to the stage that simulated that anger. I could understand that up to a point. I suppose it's similar to if you were all to tell me this video was rubbish after I spent ages on it. On the other hand though, that's not the Ponos I know. It doesn't strike me as sensible that a big company like that would seek to alienate their player base through such a spiteful change. Any company evidently wants to keep their player base. Problem is though, if this change to Growing Strange was genuine, not spiteful or ironic, that means that Ponos genuinely thought that this was a helpful or relevant change. And that's worrying, isn't it? Though they kindly watched my whole video, thanks for that, and it appears, having heard all sorts of criticisms of the stage from the wider community, they still managed to make a change that didn't address any of those concerns. Nor did they seem to implement any of the suggestions brought to them in the raft of criticisms of the stage. It seems weirdly disjointed and misjudged, and just doesn't sit quite right. Still, luckily, it might not matter too much. This wasn't to be the end of the story, after all. I can only assume pressure on Ponos continued from a wide base of people, definitely me included, because in the immediate next update, strangely already into the numerical 8 point whatevers, a bigger and more inspiring series of changes were to come about. But did the changes fix the overarching issues with Growing Strange? Though I appreciate the effort in making the changes, I don't believe they did. And so, hereforth had come update 8.0. Within it, the biggest changes to Growing Strange we had seen so far. There really seemed to be, this time, a step change in what was going on with the stage. And oh, did people want to tell me about that. I would use the past tense and say there was an absolute tirade of messages about the fact that Growing Strange had been nerfed, but that would be disingenuous to the reason that I'm still getting those messages. And I mean, thinking about it, I can understand that. Because I, over this whole period of time, had been campaigning for Growing Strange to be changed in a meaningful way. A way that would make the stage easier and just more sensible and more acceptable to an average kind of player. And really the whole player base. And so when the news came that the stage had actually been significantly changed, I was probably quite excited about the fact that something big had been done. And so this time I embarked with far less sarcasm into Growing Strange to find out if the stage had been made suitably possible by these changes. It's been nerfed. Let's give it a go with my Growing Strange slot, as slightly amended by Jace the Ace. Next off is going to be Wave Rider Coup, because we of course have the zombie who's just burrowed there. And hopefully, when it appears, yeah, lovely, zombie kill. That's a good start then. They seem a bit close to the base. I mean, this start has never actually been even remotely simple, and it can very easily go wrong, which actually it did a little bit earlier. Okay then, now is moment of truth time. Galactic Threat, traditionally the most reasonable of the second part Growing Strange stages. Galactic Threat, number of Scissoroo at boss wave -1. So this is a really tiny nerf, and there's still the chance that it could be unmanageable. Although I have managed it before, it's all a little bit chancy as to how things go and what on earth happens. So what we need for this stage in particular is Catman and Meg Aphrodite. Perhaps using our Power Pro unit and some double erasers would be sensible at the start. It seemed to be working, at least when there was one of them, although it's got a little bit hairy and scary now that there are two. But we've got 2 Power Pro units, so hopefully with a bit of slow there, we can keep our meat shields in front of them and get through this first initial part of the level, which isn't even really getting into the more difficult part. Well, that's a bit of a kick in the teeth. Both of my Power Pros are dead, but we've got another Hijiri, and there we go. The Scissoroos start falling away. Here they are. Let's get Meg Aphrodite as soon as we can. Only do half the meat shields for a little while. Slow all of them. And we got a Scissoroo hit and killed that. Good news indeed. Now, I don't have anything else particularly anti-alien, so I'm just going to put out all my meat shields, including ramen, and see how we go. It might, well, be fine. Catman has suffered an unfortunate fate at the hands of the Elder Sloth, and actually, we've been encroached upon hugely here, and unless Meg Aphrodite can get a very lucky shot, we are being decimated and are unlikely to recover from it. Scissoroo-wise and all of that. Well, that was a shot that very almost landed, but didn't. We've killed both of those Scissoroos, so perhaps once again, we're back in the mix for being able to complete the level, although you're never particularly sure. And when never particularly sure is the best that you can manage in a Growing Strange stage, you might be able to begin to see
why it's not particularly enjoyable. Anyway though, it looks like a cautious tick for Galactic Threat, although the nerf was completely minuscule, and those Scissoros are pretty much always taken out by Catman at that point anyway, so it doesn't really matter, and Galactic Threat was the least concerning of the second part stages anyway, but apart from that tiny list of things, that's a huge thumbs up for Galactic Threat. Whoa-hey! Colour of Blood! This is an exciting one, isn't it? So at the start of this one, we get a Shy Boy. That Shy Boy was pretty strong, right? Well, luckily for us, it hasn't been nerfed at all. It comes out a whopping 3.3 seconds later. That's really gonna help when you just want to stall the Shy Boy and save up for monies. 3 seconds is gonna make an absolute world of difference, isn't it? No, not really. Perhaps if they reduced the magnification of this chap, it might have been more reasonable at the start, and less ridiculously hairy and scary, and in some cases, unavoidable defeat-ish, if they, you know, made this bloke a little bit weaker, perhaps. Unavoidable defeat-ish. Through my constant meat shielding, Shy Boy has still managed to find some way to penetrate through. How, you may ask? Well, that is an extraordinarily good question for which there is no credible answer. And has that Shy Boy been addressed in the nerf? You know it hasn't. Clash of Steel, merciless then, let's see if the nerf has facilitated it being nice and possible. Starts off with a metal doge as always. Hopefully we'll have plenty of time with this one to upgrade our worker cat, so I'm just going to continually put out erasers and hope that that is in fact the case. Looks like level 5 worker cat's all we're going to really be able to be at then, seeming as we have to put out everything else. What else can I have out? Well, I could have a Meg Aphrodite or anything like that, but none of these things other than Paladin itself are of any use, uber-wise. Freeze them, give us a chance to get another Paladin out, and hopefully this one will survive for long enough to do a little bit of critical hitting. Now, this boss wave should be a little less intrusive than it once was, but it still does look like they're moving forward through us at quite a lick. That's one Paladin dead. That's another Paladin knocked back, and we are actually managing them in a decent way, but as goes with Paladin, it's really mostly about how lucky you are with critical hits, which is brilliant for the second part of a stage that takes quite a lot of your time to get through, but hey, isn't it all part of the fun? Well, that's my Paladin dead, despite doing everything I realistically can to make sure it doesn't die. The metal seal remains too strong as ever, and that means that my army is going to pale into death once again. Isn't it fun, you know? Isn't it really jolly fun? Let's see if I can save up for another Paladin before they... Oh, perhaps not. Clash of Steel again then. Spamming erasers is calculated to be just about right for the metal doge. Through that, I need to save up for Paladin anyway, because we're given no choice by the metal one horn. So what actually has been nerfed within this stage? 1 to 4 metal doges per wave is now 1 to 2 metal doges per wave. Well, what a huge difference that appears to have made. Thank you very much. Proctastic. So I'm afraid I think that means that there's a big cross on the record for Clash of Steel. The nerf has not helped it to become a reasonable stage. It is still, for the most part, inductively impossible. It's not by definition impossible, but most of the time it probably will be. Especially with the degree to which one has to angle the Growing Strange strat away from metal enemies to all the other types of enemies, because critical hitters are usually pretty specific. Because you've got the one horn there, you have to choose to advance. You can't just have like a waitress cat there, because that with its attack rate certainly won't get you through the rest of the stage. So you have to push forward. If that one horn had been removed, perhaps the stage would have been a bit more reasonable. You could have started to, for example, perhaps stack some units depending on how they critical hitted. And then that might give you a chance. If the metal seal was considerably nerfed, basically, there's a lot still left to do on that stage, and Lucas's original suggestion that it ought to really just perhaps be removed might kind of be quite a good idea. Luckily, actually, this time we've only got one Ginger Snatch, which means we can probably just keep putting out erasers and get ourselves a much higher worker cat level than we usually do. Good stuff.
though nothing to do with any of the changes whatsoever. Plenty of erasers, plenty more of erasers, and I think we'll be just about alright, unless something out of my control happens. My Eva 00 is dead and nowhere near coming back again, which means after these several minutes of doing this first level, guess what exciting thing we get to do? That's right, we get to do it again! I mean, even though it doesn't feel like it, I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm the one sitting here who has my Eva 00. What about the people with very limited wave resistance? All they've probably got is like an octopus cat, and that's not going to fare them particularly well. And even for me, the Berserkori's a right pain. The way I did Wave Rider Coup before obviously wasn't working. I'm going to have to try and find a different way of doing it. The way I'm thinking of is freezing the little boy when he's about to burrow. Just like that. Just caught him before he went under the ground. And did that have any positive effect? No, we were stopped further back the battlefield and it just carried on burrowing through the ground, rendering my efforts completely useless once again. And oh, what's that? My paladin's dead. Its recharge time is short, but not that short. Looks like this time we're gonna meet fate by Metal One Horn. Oh, it's a joy, isn't it? I just love wasting my time doing this first stage over and over again. Yes, there's the ability to restart this first stage, and if there wasn't that ability, I mean, I wouldn't be going near this stage even now for trying it. But nevertheless, it's still incredibly annoying how much time you put into trying getting through a starting stage, an inconsequential no reward stage that brings you on to worse things to come, and yet even that stage causes great annoyance. It is not an enjoyable experience, and this is a game fundamentally to be enjoyed playing, and the changes so far has certainly not remedied the unfun nature that you get from the start of this level. I've always maintained that if Growing Strange was this difficult, it would be fine if it was a stage you didn't have to repeat, but being a catfruit stage technically, that's fundamentally part of the nature of it, and so you're just doing this thing that is too difficult for a stage that needs to be repeated over and over again, in a vicious cycle of no fun whatsoever. And unless you get Galactic Threat, failure. Think about things this way. A stage that has to be repeated over and over again is, in my mind at least, made fun by the idea that you can improve your strategy on it and make it easier and easier each time. With Growing Strange, there's no real capacity to do that because it's so difficult that almost nothing ever works, and there's no real improvement to be made because you're always on a knife edge. Growing Strange might have been a fantastic idea if it had just been one of those merciless event stages. Oh, I mean, this is quite a spot of luck for actually farming the stage, but not entirely great for doing a video about it, Ponos. What we get. What's this? Is this the true Growing Strange nerf? They've nerfed it so that I only get Galactic Threat. If they've actually done that, that's great. Good on you, Ponos. And so, perhaps a moment you've been waiting for quite a while, the time to talk about the spoiler. This is its reason as a form of investment to sort of be able to do Growing Strange in the future and eventually make my way through the Uncanny Legends if eventually Growing Strange still ends up being impossible in terms of reliably being able to beat it. I shelled out more than the conversion rate's worth of my own money to get Matama out of a platinum ticket in order to make Growing Strange a more realistic prospect. And to give back to the game, I guess. That's also a nice thing to do. And I thought I'd keep that a secret until now. Thing is though, I don't intend to use it normally because of just how powerful it is. Something I was about to find out. Your purchase was successful. Hey. Platinum capsules. Oh, yes. That's the sort of thing that we like. Now, one of the incredible things about Matama is that it flouts the general rules of effectiveness against enemies that other cats follow, because it is also effective against metal, so that should really help in something like Clash of Steel. But of course, if you don't have it, like I've not had it for like a really long time, yeah, you got no chance. It's even immune to waves. I mean, of course it is. This is hardly like a step up so much as I've climbed an entire huge flight of stairs. I would have loved for the level to be changed so that it was reasonable for everyone, and not reasonable enough for people who just happen to be able to get themselves Matama. Balance. So we're going to put her in place of Wave Rider Ku, given that we have Hijiri in the top row. Okay then, this time let's do it slightly differently with, of course, Mitama the Oracle for the first time ever on the channel. How very exciting indeed, and already a beautiful fiery cat of slow. Let's stop you, you nasty little zombie boy. Ain't having you causing trouble to any of my units, thank you very much. The era of trouble is now hopefully over now that we've got a free ticket to success. But surely this is all about the nerf of Growing Strange, isn't it? The thing that made Growing Strange possible, the thing where Ponos listened and finally made it a reasonable kind of level that people could generally expect to beat and feel comfortable farming. Well, if they have Mitama. What do we got now? We've got Seas of Death, the zombie one. And I believe the only nerf that I was truly happy to see and hopeful that it would be useful. In my previous incarnations of trying to beat it, if you remember, it was just about all by the skin of your teeth, alright, until the second Zangru came along and just completely screwed you because you were in a ridiculously weak position at that point and you couldn't really do anything. Now, however, there's only one in the stage, and I think that is a sensible change. Here he is then, just burrowed under the ground, Mr. Zangru himself. Let's get Mitama out here so it doesn't get burrowed into, but can still pull off the slow. Jizo will also probably help with something like this, a nice tiny bit of range, and also the anti-zombie from Hijiri. Now I'm just going to meat shield as much as I can. I mean, if I can't win with this, I don't know what I can win with. Well, Samel does outrange Mitama, so that is actually possibly one thing that could hold us back a little bit. I can be contented, I think, that this zombie stage is the only one of the second part stages that has been addressed properly within the nerf. That was the issue that there was with it. The fact that the Zangru comes round again when you're really weak and can't deal with it, that looks like it was addressed. Well, that's highly representative, isn't it? Not very easy to make a video about Growing Strange. Let's take this opportunity then not to use Mitama and see if the nerfs have made this level possible, because if there's a chance in any of the levels, I think there's a chance in this one. So I've got Mag Aphrodite in the back now. She should be doing some nice cover damage from where she is. She's the only thing I've got that can outrange Zamel. And from here I'm just going to do intermittent Jizos and when I can, the Hijiri. And while the Shadow Boxer K isn't there, just erasers to both try and encourage non-burrowing and save a little bit of funds. Okay. That's quite an interesting one, isn't it? I thought we were going to die just there. Got loads of stuff encroaching upon us here. That's a big zombie kill from Hijiri, though. We might have a chance. Meg Aphrodite covering from the back. Jizo's coming out. Loads of meat shields coming out at this point. And actually, yeah, I think difficult stage, but now, seeming as we're on the back foot, but there's no more huge trouble for us, possible. I think that can be one happy story for now then, the fact that Seas of Death has been addressed in a sensible, mature and proper way that has made the stage possible, sans Mitama, and I'm really glad for that. All fear of flying, this will be interesting to see without an octopus cat, but with Mitama, whether this is possible, because I mean I know full well that it's not usually possible without the Mitama. Fear of flying, Pigeon strength magnification down from 300 to 200%. Well, that is a good start. Number of Pigeon before the boss wave, 4 down to 3. Number of Brollos before the boss wave, 1 to unlimited. That's every half a minute, so we're going to miss the opportunity to get our worker cat up there, but perhaps that is a good change, allowing you to get the max worker cat you arguably need. Those Brollos have somehow come straight through. I'm not even going to ask as to how they managed to do that. My base is already half down, and I haven't spent my monies at all wisely, so I haven't actually got the monies for what I need, and well, heavens above, I can't try it again, so I lose. Well, that's comforting, isn't it? What have we got this time? Oh, okay. Unfortunately, past that attempt there, I didn't get any more chances to try Fear of Flying, so I had to ask for some actual video content of beating it, or at least getting a bit further with it.
And what I've been able to see from this is that the possible advantage given by the nerf is actually very difficult to realise. As you might be able to see here, the start with the new Brollo system of unlimited would be a great idea to just stall with. Unfortunately, the way that you'd stall in, for example, floor 22 with just a singular eraser doesn't work because you've got Pigeons de Sable there, and they're not particularly passive when you're just trying to meat shield with one unit. You have to deal with the Pigeon, and then when you've done that, the Brollo will be dealt with, and there's just too long between each of the Brollos to realistically be able to upgrade your worker cat very far. So the one thing that would perhaps make this stage, even despite its insane magnifications, a commonly possible endeavour, doesn't actually get realised, doesn't work properly, and so ultimately you're left with much the same problem as before of not having enough funds, and as a result losing out pretty quickly to the onslaught of enemies, usually anyway. Hearts of Darkness, honestly, I think I've only ever been given this stage about once, but from what I've heard from people about Bombercat being caught out, and I've been told Bombercat is still required despite the nerf to Razorback's magnification, that means a slot of your army, if you want to be able to beat the Black Stage, is going to be taken up by one such unit. Bombercat, Odor, whatever you happen to have with you, there needs to be its own space for it, and space is very, very precious in Growing Strange, perhaps too precious for the chance for it all to go wrong of Hearts of Darkness. And I think until the Razorback is removed from that stage, allowing you more freedom in your slot, it's still gonna be a problem. And Holy Wrath? Much to my surprise, the nerfs, which even Jace agreed did not sound like particularly useful things, is actually possible with Matama, but that's the only circumstance in which I have managed it. It was grievously impossible without Matama, without even a hint of a shadow of a chance to be able to beat this second part stage. And I doubt that changing some timings of the winged Pige is going to make that much difference. So, in all likelihood, that's still a cross for Holy Wrath. And so as a result, I would argue that these nerfs have not had the wide effect that they need to fix Growing Strange as a whole. I think Galactic Threat is now acceptable. I think Seas of Death is now pretty much acceptable. But the other ones? I'm not sure the nerf's done what it needed to do there. If you happen to agree with my assessment, it would seem that Growing Strange, even in Update 8.0, hasn't properly been fixed. But what am I actually gonna think or do about that in the future? Since Update 8.0, in the sort of lovely functionality tradition that we've had of recently, there have actually been some more Growing Strange changes. Ones that I think are really positive and actually really rather good. And that has to do with clarity and timetabling. And I guess a mixture of those two things. So first of all, let's get this right in the foreground, that what is happening here is a brilliant step forward. I certainly think it's a rather excellent improvement that now within the events menu we have Growing Strange up there, as you can see there, and 2 in 1 day, even better. And if you are such a way inclined, you can have the game notify you for when it's on, which allays some of the problems there used to be for certain. Does help towards having a better experience playing the level, but although a good thing, it's a little thing, not a game-changing thing. Well, I guess game-changing, but not game-changing. This more regular form of Growing Strange is really a little bit of an endorsing of some of the original suggestions to have it more often. Sometimes you might even get 2 in 1 day and you actually know when they are. So that's brilliant for doing Growing Strange, but the NG cost is still high, the drop rates are still low, and evidently there are still a lot of problems with it. One problem that has sort of been half fixed is carrying forward items. Obviously this has been a huge kind of problem in that you have a really difficult time with the second stages not being able to carry forward things like rich cats and sniper cats. But one of the biggest problems was the huge wait you'd have in a level such as Colour of Blood to get your army set up if you managed to keep the shy boy off your base, and it would take up a huge amount of your time and possibly put you out of another go at Growing Strange. As we're going to miss the opportunity to do another Growing Strange this time, let's take you through this opportunity in a nice leisurely way, because there is no other way, because you can't carry your speed up through. And Colour of Blood is possibly a level which you'd really want to carry your speed up through, and certainly eat into your day. We've now also got to the point within this level where we can stack Mega Aphrodite, so I wouldn't at any point call it a short venture, or one that you can just do in a short amount of time. This is quite a commitment, but luckily Ponos have since 8.0 made an exception for speed ups to allow them to be carried through, which is very useful. I'm certainly glad for that. Those stages can be got through a little bit quicker, and for something with such a huge weight as that is a good sign. But unfortunately, there's still a thing, we're not being able to change your type of cannon. The issue with this is that in Colour of Blood, which I'll use as an example again, if the shy boy gets onto your base, there is no way with an average Growing Strange slot to move it off. You've just lost, and that's it. So for that, you'd need to equip yourself a normal cannon to get it briefly knocked back away from the base. Problem is, any other level does a lot better from having Slow Beam, or perhaps for the zombie one, something like Holy Blast. And you have no ability to customize this when you get to the second stage. All you're going to be able to really do is plump for a slow cannon and then be at a disadvantage if you get Colour of Blood or Seas of Death. It's not something I can see changing because of the structure of continues, but it certainly is something that continues to make Growing Strange difficult. I would ultimately say that in the future I want to see a greater number of nerfs, some more changes to make all of these second part stages reasonable. But I'm not going to try my luck. I think Ponos have played quite a nice hand for us, and they've given us some changes, and to be honest, I'm happy with my resolve now, roughly explained by this. We've gone in the right direction. I'm ever thankful for this having happened, and I had resigned myself to thinking that it wouldn't and I'd be eternally ignored, but it's not enough. And if that makes me sound petulant, I'm sorry, but I still don't enjoy it, and I still do not think that it's a fair stage, especially the fact that even with Matama in some cases, it can't be done, and to make it reasonable and enjoyable in an Elder Secret, you do need that one specific unit, or perhaps Gao. 2 units out the whole game. Wowee. I mean, I guess, yeah, with Matama, at least this first stage is a lot more bearable. But with Matama, that's the issue. So I will not be going back to it, not unless I have a particularly urgent reason to, and there's a bit of progression that I absolutely need Catfruit Evolution Anti-Relic unit for. I'm going to relax my principles a tiny bit, but not willfully go for doing Growing Strange, because I don't think it's ready yet. And unless there's huge public outcry for me to continue to campaign for further nerfs, I'm going to leave Growing Strange at that and accept that with my Matama now, it might be alright to go back to if I desperately need a particular unit. But otherwise, I'm not going to do it. Not regularly. I still don't find it enjoyable. I still don't think that it works especially well as a growing stage. It works so much better than it did. That's important to say, but in the story of Growing Strange, there's still some way to go for it to be part of my lifestyle, but that's not what the Battle Cats game is based around, so I'm happy to just accept it as it is and move forward with my own way of interpreting my doing of the stage. But what do you think? If you've watched this far, I would commend you, but also thank you, because it's been a flipping lot of work to get this far in the edit as well. And perhaps you have some thoughts on the matter, so let me know your thoughts on the matter and what you think of my ending resolutions about Growing Strange. But I guess that marks the end of the story. We've arrived at the present day after what is over a year of this stage. I mean, wow, it's proper documentary stuff. And I'm sure the story will wind on for much longer yet. But as I look forward into the future, that is all I can do. And so on that note, after what is a journey I hope has been of much pleasure to you. I bid you goodbye, and I hope you enjoyed.